Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. I haven't done a video in a really long time where I do a bit of a talk to start a conversation, and I feel like doing that right now, so I hope that you enjoy and that this sparks some sort of thought in your mind, and then that we can start this conversation, because I think part of my main purpose in life is to not only be an artist who speaks out about things, but also just to be a human who speaks out about things, because in our society, especially with the growth of technology and the growth of social media, we don't always have very healthy, open conversations with people anymore, be that face-to-face or even on social media, right? It's either one or the other. I feel like it's either people are boasting about exciting successes, or we're complaining or trying to tear someone down with hate comments. And it's like, where's that middle ground of just being honest? Like, that's my goal, is just honesty, and is just trying to serve the world by being the best person I can be and trying to put my best foot forward, but also talking about the struggles in life. And so today I wanted to talk about change. And this is something that I posted about on social media a few days ago, and some of you have saw it, and some of you probably haven't. And so essentially I just want to talk about the fact that change, we know as humans that change is basically the only constant in life. However, how many of us struggle with change? I think it would be fair to say that everybody in some way, to some capacity, struggles with adapting to change. And I'm not saying we don't have the capability of doing so, because obviously many of us can be thrown into a situation and we are able to persevere. We have survival mechanisms that come in, and that's such a beautiful thing about being human, is that we can be thrown into something very unfamiliar or unsafe, and we can prevail, we can survive. And that's such a strength and such an amazing, like, mind-boggling thing about being human. However, when it comes to the mundane things or the day-to-day things in life, or even be it a big transition in your personal life or your professional life, if it's not a life or death situation, there seems to be a struggle with adapting. And I think that's okay, and I think it's important to talk about. So today I want to try to keep this under 10 minutes and try to keep it short, and I want to talk about how this can impact our personal life and our professional life. And I'm just speaking from my own experience and hope that it resonates with you. I know what it's like to be on both sides of the fence, and that's where I want to start with this today, is that I know what it's like to feel like I have changed because I myself am in my own shoes. So I know what it feels like to go through this situation and that situation. I know what it's like to take risks. I know what it's like because I've lived it myself. I know what my feelings were. I know what my thoughts were. And that's what I know. So my inner world and my inner reality has shifted and changed, and so has my external reality. And not everybody will be able to understand that. And it goes for anyone else, because your experience is purely your own. And I think that's why we can feel so isolated and alone. We feel lonely as the human race, because we feel like nobody is going to understand what we're going through. And sometimes it really does feel that way. And I posted the other day that there are people, the more you're open about what you're going through in your life, and again, I'm not suggesting we only focus on the negative, but the more you're open about both your successes and your struggles, you'll find that people will reach out to you and they will relate to you. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they've had the exact same life experience, but people feel the same emotions. And that's why I love music, because whether you can relate to the exact story that I wrote in the lyrics or not, the emotion that's evoked in music can be felt no matter what language you speak, or what, race you are, or gender you are, and no matter your sexual orientation. Like, it boggles my mind that, we feel so alone, because we can really relate. On the opposite side of this, I know what it's like to be in relationships and to love people and to get to know people to be a certain way and play a certain role in my life. And when they go through a massive life change, my interaction with them changes. And I know what it's like to expect people to be a certain way, the way that I used to know them. And that's not really a fair thing to do, but I think all of us do it. And I am kind of dealing with more so of the opposite of that right now. Well, I'm dealing with both, let's be honest. I'm dealing with both. I'm dealing with, expecting people to show up for me in the previous ways that they have, because that's how I know them to be, even though they've shifted and changed and I haven't quite understood where our connecting point is anymore. And I'm also dealing with me going through my changes, and other people are like, I don't know how to relate to you anymore because I used to know you to be this way and you're telling me you're not that way anymore, so I don't know where our relating connection point is anymore. And so I just wanted to be honest about that, because I do know what it's like to be on both sides of the fence, and it's frustrating on both ends. It's frustrating when you feel like nobody is validating who you currently are. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to feel like you've gone out into the world and experienced so many different things, and it's changed you, and people excuse me, don't always realize how you've changed or why you've changed. And the main message I want to get into today is about authenticity, because with my last point, we are obviously influenced by many things in life, right? We're influenced by births, we're influenced by deaths, we're influenced by who we meet, whether that be a stranger on the street or we dive into an intimate relationship with somebody. All of these things, everything we interact with, everyone we interact with in our lives changes us. And it changes our perspective of ourselves. It changes our perspective of life. It changes our perspective on everything, on our beliefs. It makes us become different. It makes us act different. And we obviously, it's not our job, right? We can't explain to everybody that's ever crossed our path in our entire life and say, well, I went through this, and this, and that's why I'm this way now and not that way I used to be. And it's also, just as hard on the other end when you're someone who, on the opposite side, has known somebody, maybe even raised somebody, and you've known them to be a certain way for their whole life. And then all of a sudden, you're dealing with the person in front of you who is changing and is trying to explain to you that they've changed and that, they're not the same. And you're like, well, what do you mean you're not the same? I've known you my whole life or your whole life. And what do you mean you're not the same anymore? And, it's frustrating on both ends how relationships change. Things in life change. The other thing, too, is that sometimes our growth is stunted by traumatic events in our lives, whether that's a death or whether that's an illness or whether that's, who knows, like there's so many traumatic things that happen to people. Could be abuse, could not be abuse. Doesn't matter what it is. It's just that, sometimes we go through these things in our lives, and whether that happens to you when you're a child or when you're an adult, these things change your behaviors and your thoughts and the way that you interact with people. And so let's just say, for example, for the majority of your life, you've been operating from this repressed and scared version of yourself who was traumatized by whatever. You kind of just become a different version of you, and people get to know you to be that way. And down the line in your life, when you become aware of these traumatic events, or my voice is cracking today. I'm hitting puberty as a male, because apparently I'm a male now. Just saying, nothing wrong with that. If you wanted to do that, that's cool. All jokes aside, if you become aware of what your wounds and traumas are, and you start to work on those and change those, and whether you choose to go through therapy or you find whatever it is that helps you to heal and move on in your life and let go of these pains, you then morph into an even different version of yourself than most people know you to be. And arguably, you become a truer version of yourself because you're free to be who you are, your soul is, not this version of you that was trying to protect you, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to wrap this up. We're hitting the 10-minute mark now, and I just wanted to pose this question and this thought to everybody today, which is this, perhaps our authentic sense of self changes in every moment. What if that were true? Because for some reason I used to believe, and I think a lot of people believe, this idea that we have one version of ourselves that's our true, authentic self. Like, that's the version of me that I'm putting out to the world. That's the version of me that people know and have come to love and accept, and that's got to be me. What if that wasn't true? What if we go through life and, like I said, we're morphed and changed? We go through births, we go through deaths, whether that be internally or externally or both. We meet people that change the course of our lives. And we experience things. We experience highs and lows. We experience pain and grief. And we also experience success and joy and bliss and love. These things change us. And, I don't know why as humans we assume that we know the one and only authentic version of ourselves or of other people. Because I think really I'm starting to believe that our authentic version of ourself is whoever you are in the moment. And that's ever changing and that's growing at all times. Because even professionally speaking for me, or personally too, the person that I was 5 years ago and the artist that I was 5 years ago was authentic to me at that time. I was writing about my experiences at that time. I was being who I was at that time and was impacted and influenced by whatever my circumstances were 5 years ago. And the person that I am today and the artist that I am today is different because the stuff that I have gone through during that 5-year period has been life-changing in so many ways. And so I show up today as a different person because I've been influenced by so many different things. And I've also been, as I mentioned earlier, one of those people who's realized, wow, you know what? For my entire life, I've had this pain and this pain that I never dealt with, and I really need to deal with that. So I'm going to show up and be a different person now than most people knew me to be years ago. And believe it or not, in my personal life, I haven't been as vocal as I have been in my professional life. And so I'm learning to find my sense of power and my sense of voice. Not just in my art and in my music, but in my personal life. And that's shifting all of my relationships because people have known me to be this quiet, nice person. And there's a lot of stuff that I feel that I have never vocalized before. And that's stuff that I'm working on and stuff that's going to come out, and some of it will stay in my private realm and some of it will be public in my art because it's so intertwined with who I am. So anyways, I'll leave it at that. Just consider again that your authentic self is always changing, and just try to be true to who you are in the moment. And it's okay if that person changes over time. And it's also okay, as hard as it is, it's okay if people don't understand the person that you're becoming, the person that you currently are. The things that you're trying to express, if people don't get it, they don't get it. If people get it, they get it. And we can't always look for validation from outside circumstances or from other people. We're all human. If someone has known you for a really long time, sometimes they're not gonna understand who you are now if you're presenting yourself to be a different person. It happens. And vice versa, So that's all I have to say for today, just trying to keep it real. And yeah. Just love and acceptance for yourself and for other people. Life is always changing, circumstances are always changing, and our inner and outer world often is always changing, and that means we're going to show up to be different people. And that doesn't mean that that's bad. It doesn't mean that who we were before wasn't authentic. It just means that our new sense of self and identity changes. And, again, think about the fact that your authentic self or someone else's authentic self changes. mind-blowing. Honestly though, because even as artists evolve, sorry, one last point. I've been that person. I've been that person who loved certain singer-songwriters for years, and I, watched them grow and evolve, and I loved all their material, and then all of a sudden they come out with a new project, and I'm like, who is that? Like, that's not what I'm used to from them, and I'm not really a fan anymore. And it's like, I get it now, because it's not fair to expect people to stay the same and to be who you expect them to be. It's not fair. It's really not fair at all. People are entitled and are allowed to grow and change and experiment. And for God's sakes, like, power to you. If you have the strength and the courage to change and put yourself out there as a different version of yourself that people aren't necessarily going to accept. Like, it blew my mind that I've been putting teaser photos out on Facebook and on Instagram to promote my new single that's going to be coming out this spring called The One. And it's a very different genre. It's a very different look for me for this one project. And it blew my mind that people were so appalled. Like, for the most part, people are really excited and are super supportive. And I say thank you for those people. But I have received a few messages that have been less than accepting. And that's to be expected, because it's not what I put out 5 years ago. Like, it's just not. And it doesn't mean it's not true to me. It doesn't mean I'm going to look like a rock star for the rest of my life. It doesn't mean every song I write now is going to be rock and roll and it's going to be fuck you. It's not. It's like, what it is it's me authentically being me right now. It was me writing this song a few months ago because I went through a lot and needed an outlet to heal. And it came out as kind of an angry song. And if you have followed my previous work, you would know that I don't typically write a lot of angry songs. A lot of my songs are like love and light and, trying to find the light in the dark and all that stuff. But honestly, it's okay to also be angry sometimes. And I'm someone that has always given everybody the benefit of the doubt. I'm someone that has always kept the peace and has always been put together and has always been professional and has always been like this solid, put together, like prim and proper person. And that's changing now. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to be kind, doesn't mean I'm not going to be respectful or diplomatic or put things in an eloquent way, because I think I do have a way with phrasing and wording things because I'm a writer. However, I need to allow myself to also express just some pure emotion that's raw, and it's not pretty, and it's a way for me to heal, and it's also a way for me to empower other people to say, you know what? It's okay if you feel this way, because there are so many people. The more people I talk to about the subject of this song, which I won't get into now, that'll be a whole other video, but the more people I talk to about this, I realize that I'm so not the only one who feels this way. I have talked to so many people with similar struggles and who have felt angry and who have felt maybe isolated or felt that they weren't understood because they were going through a situation where they felt either as a mother or as a sister or as a wife that they had to be there for other people and be strong and have their shit together. And I know what that feels like. And I also know what it feels like to have that rotting your soul inside because you feel like you can't express yourself. You feel like you aren't allowed to be angry and you aren't allowed to speak out because someone else's well-being is more important than yours. And so the purpose of this next project is that. It's to be a voice for myself and it's to be a voice for other people. And that's it. So now I've gone on for another 10 minutes and I'm going to end this. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys will consider this whole idea and concept of your authentic self is changing and other people's authentic self is not necessarily one person either. And just because you knew someone to be one way at one time doesn't mean that was like the authentic self, that their authentic version of themselves. And now that they've changed, they're not real anymore. They're not authentic to themselves anymore. Because you know what? Who's to say that was the authentic version of them that was going to last forever anyways? We are always changing and growing and evolving. And we should be. Because why are we here? We're here to grow and we're here to evolve. And that's called being human. So anyways, take care everyone, and we'll chat soon. Bye.